Welcome to the Passive Income Machine podcast, where we show you how to break free from the grind and achieve real financial freedom in 10 years or less. My name is Ryan D. Lee, and I've helped thousands turn income into cash flow, trade fake money for real assets, and take back control over their time, their wealth, and ultimately their life. Each week, you'll get strategy, tools, and mindset to build your own passive income machine. So my friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. All right, my friends. Welcome back to the Passive Income Machine podcast. You are on the microphone today with me, Ryan D. Lee, and today I've got a juicy topic for you. In fact, it's one of my favorite topics because in my mind, it really sits at the heart, at the core, at the foundation of the topic of financial freedom. And the title of this podcast is Financial Freedom is the Ultimate Rebellion. I want you to consider this. I truly believe that the financial system, whether it's nefarious, whether it's intentional, whether it's by design or by default, today the financial system is designed to keep you stuck. It's designed to keep you dependent. And there's a lot of people behind this, from the government to Wall Street. The more dependent you are, the more power you secede out of your own life to governments and politicians, to Wall Street, to provide a future for you. And today I want you to consider this, that the possibility of your life is to become financially free. And that possibility is available to everyone. Now, I get it. Today it's probably been harder than it has been in recent times because of the disparity and the overall issues that are going on. But I've been preparing for the release of the Passive Income Machine book, and I'm really, really excited about this. The objective here of this book is to give people a playbook, to be able to see the framework for how our economy is set up, and to give them a playbook for how to use this framework, the principles, the backstop of our economy, to their advantage, to become financially free by using the rules in their favor. Now, as preparation for the release of this book, I've been hosting interviews with a lot of people that have mentored and guided me over the years that are speaking at the Retire in 10 Years Summits. Now, if you're not registered for that, make sure you get registered. It's going to be a phenomenal event. But here's what I've been asking everyone, no matter where they're coming from, whether their proficiency is in taxes, in investing, in insurance, in real estate, in personal development, in coaching, whatever it is, I've been asking every single person a single question. Now, I've asked them multiple questions, but every person that's come on the interview, I've asked them the same question. And here's the question. If you had just 10 years to work, earn, and save, 10 years, that's it. And during that 10-year period of time, you could work, you could earn, and you could save, ultimately invest. And after 10 years, you could never work for money again. How would you build a system to support your lifestyle for the rest of your life? What would you do? Now, I want you to consider this. We all kind of take for granted that, we have unlimited time in front of us to work, to earn, to save, and to invest. But what if you only had 10 years to do it? How would you do it? And I want you to consider that if you don't have an answer to that question, you are dependent on things that are relatively out of your control. Over the last decade plus, I've worked with a lot of clients. I've worked with a lot of people. In fact, just recently, I have a client who was recently approved a couple of years ago for a preferred health rating insurance policy, and today, just recently, he was denied for some things that have happened inside of his health that are radically altering whether or not he's going to survive. My friends, here's the reality. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and we have a system that will keep you working, keep you dependent, unless you do something about it. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through a few of the mindsets around this idea that financial freedom is your ultimate rebellious act. What does it mean to be rebellious against a system that wants to keep you trapped? And I'm going to share a story from someone in our community, Irina and Walter, who came from Ukraine several years ago, looking for a better opportunity with their life here in America, and what they've done with this idea of being rebellious against this system that is holding you down. So here's the reality, my friends. Most Americans today live in dependency. I want you to consider that. Most Americans today in a free country live not independent, but dependent. They're dependent on jobs. They're dependent on banks. They're dependent on government promises. They're dependent on everyone else to ensure that they have enough food, enough money, enough electricity, ability enough of whatever it is to live the life that they want. And if one of those things breaks down, they realize how dependent they are on that system. I think we all got a little wake-up call of this during COVID when we realized, hey, things that we considered to be a sure thing might not be a sure thing. From toilet paper, first and foremost, to food, to our work, to our ability to travel, to our health, right? There was a lot of things that came up. Now, my question for you is, have you done anything about that dependency? Because we're taught today that freedom, it's just a feeling, it's a concept, it's an idea, but it's not. That is the trick. Freedom is a fact. And real freedom is measurable. It shows up in cash flow, it shows up in time, and it shows up in choices. So today, let me just give you a couple of these stats, and you can find your own stats to back all of this up. But since 2020, inflation has stolen over 20% of the dollar's value. Another way to say this is there has been a permanent price increase baked into our economy in groceries, in energy, in the things that we all use every single day. They are 20% more expensive today than they were just 4 years ago. Today, with all of that in mind, 40% of Americans, they can't even cover a $400 emergency. Even though the IRS is collecting a record amount of taxes, almost $5 trillion last year, they are running a $2 trillion deficit. Banks are debanking people based on ideology. Chase Bank, PayPal, U.S. debt is at $37 trillion. Real estate affordability is at 40-year lows. There are so many things going on that shows the cracks in the foundation of our world, causing people with eyes to see and ears to hear to wonder what they should be doing about it. So I want you to consider this. We're not free in this world to choose our circumstances. Our circumstances are what they are. You live in America, I live in America. What I am free to choose is I'm free to choose my reaction to those circumstances. We're free to choose our actions. Even in the most difficult of circumstances, we can choose the way we act. We can choose the way we respond. That's real freedom. That's the only thing that we actually have, is our ability to choose how we react in a given set of circumstances, what you're going to do with the circumstances of your life. Now, let me share a story of someone who's inspired me greatly inside of our community, Irina and Walter. They've been in our community now for probably 5, maybe 6 years, and they came from Ukraine several years ago, I think almost over 20 years ago. Back in Ukraine, Irina was a world-class ballroom dancer, but she kind of put, her ballroom dancing shoes up on the shelf for a while, and she came to America to start a better life, to have better economic potential. She bought a house. She's raised, I believe, 2 young men, 2 boys. One just got married, I believe, but she's raised a family here. She's worked hard as a nurse and on various other jobs, and her husband Walter has been in the healthcare industry as well. And recently, they came into our community because they wanted to take more control over their finances, namely over their ability to be financially free. And the reason that they came into our community was they felt like so much of what was promised to them with the system of retirement was out of their control. Now, they had control to choose to come to America, to work hard, to save money, to buy a house. They've improved the quality of their life dramatically. But when they realized they didn't have control over their retirement plan and ultimately what was going to happen if they could ever retire, they realized they needed to exercise their free agency to choose something better, to take on the mantle of responsibility. I want you to consider this. Freedom isn't free. You don't just get to wake up tomorrow and be free. You have to take on the opposite of freedom, which is responsibility. Hey, it's Ryan jumping in real quick with something that you do not want to miss. The How to Retire in 10 Years Summit is coming up, and this is the event that makes everything we do here possible. If you're ready to build real passive income and take control over your money and ultimately your life in 2025, now's the time. Early registration is open, and there's an exclusive bonus waiting when you join the list. Just hit the link in the show notes or head to retireintenyears.com. All right, back to the show. It's really interesting when you look at those dichotomies put together in the outcome. If you want to be free to choose, you must take on the responsibility, the stewardship over choosing the right outcomes to get the outcome that you want in life, making the right choices to get the outcome that you want. And so, with Irina and Walter, they came here and they realized that freedom could be built, but it's not given. They chose to make independent decisions with their life, with their geography, with their employment, with their education. and ultimately with their money. And a couple of years ago, Irina chose to make it yet again another decision. And this decision is probably the one that inspires me the most. Rather than waiting for retirement, rather than waiting for one day to live the life that she dreamt of living, she decided to do it now. And this actually brought around the full concept of what financial freedom is. Financial freedom is really just allocating money to building and living a life that matters to you. Now, there's more to it than that, obviously, but at the end, net result, that's really what it is. I want you to consider this. You don't actually want money, neither do I. I just want what money can be traded for. Can I trade my money for the things that give me the most value, the most life-giving opportunities today? So Irina decided to pick up her dancing shoes, and she's been back in the world of ballroom dance part-time, not full-time, but part-time, in addition to holding down employment. And man, the satisfaction overall with her life has gone through the roof. It's been so fun to watch her get trophies, awards, participate in competitions, do all the things that she once did 20 plus years ago. But my friends, I want you to consider this. It's never too late to start to take more control over your life. So let's talk a little bit about how to do this when it comes to money, because the real path to financial freedom, or the real path to financial freedom being the ultimate rebellion, is becoming independent. The greatest form of wealth is for you to be able to wake up every single day and freely declare, I can do whatever I want today. That's not luxury, that's freedom. And money's greatest intrinsic value is to give you the ability to wake up with more options, with more control over the one thing that we have limited of, which is our time. So in order to become financially free, here's what I want you to consider. I want you to consider that the old playbook, the playbook of go to school, get a job, put your money in the market, that is a system of dependency. You are dependent on so many variables completely outside of your control. Think about what's working against you when you put your money in the market. Inflation is working against you. Taxes, whether now or deferred taxes, are working against you. Markets volatility is working against you. You literally have no control over whether the market is up or a market is down. Now, you can throw money at it, and generally speaking, you'll end up with more money than when you started. But is that money actually going to set you free, giving your time back? My objective is to help you become financially free in 10 years or less. Go back to the question that I asked at the beginning of this podcast. If you had just 10 years to work, to earn, to save, and to invest, and after 10 years you could never work for money again, what would you do? It is mathematically impossible for you to retire in the stock market. Now, you might preserve some of your wealth and purchasing power in the stock market, but you cannot retire in 10 years or less in the stock market. So abandon that playbook. The playbook, obviously, that we teach you is the passive income machine. And the main reason that we teach you about this playbook is we flip the economic conditions that are working against you in places like the market to working for you. Namely, the biggest thing that you have advantage of is you have the ability to take advantage of tax strategy and leverage. Leverage is the key. The only way you can become financially free in 10 years or less is using leverage. Now, it has to be used responsibly, and that's not what this episode is about, but it's really about taking control over your money, taking control over your results, and increasing your financial intelligence. I talk to so many people that they think financial freedom is hard, and it is. Achieving financial freedom in 10 years or less is hard. If it wasn't, everyone would have it. If it wasn't, everyone would do it. But I want you to consider this. You get to choose your hard. You could choose to take the easy way out and say, look, I'm just going to cross my fingers. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to hope it works out. And that, by definition, is choosing a version of hard. It might be easy today, but I promise you, you're going to have to deal with the hard later. And you're going to have to deal with the hard when you have less time, less earning capacity, and probably, speaking, more AI taking over jobs in the future. So you get to choose to defer your hard, or you could just do something hard right now. Increase your financial intelligence. I want to applaud you for listening to this podcast. That's exactly what this podcast is really meant to do. It's meant to give you the tool book, the rule book, the principles and the tactics to be able to win with money today. So that's number one, is understanding that you have to take control over your money, and you have to use your money in a very systematic way that works with the economic forces rather than against them. Because when you don't, you become dependent on a system that has intentionally enslaved you, trapped you. I want you to consider this. When you follow the system, you are deferring your taxes. You're told by a well-meaning CPA to follow the rules and do what everyone else is doing. doing. Everyone is taking a deduction today and deferring their taxes to tomorrow. That's what an IRA does. I want you to consider this. When you dream of retirement, do you dream of spending more or less money? You probably dream of more. You want to travel more. You want to adventure more. You want more freedom to be able to do the things that you want. Inflation is probably going to push you into a higher tax bracket by default. So you're really just pushing a ticking time bomb to the future when you defer your taxes. The other thing that makes you dependent is the market and its outcomes. The market is massively overinflated right now, and I'm not going to go into that on this episode, but you're investing in a system that you have literally no control over. The S&P right now is so massively influenced by the Magnificent Seven, by 7 powerful stocks, and outside of the Magnificent Seven, the S&P 500 is relatively flat, which means there is a tremendous amount of volatility underneath the surface of the S&P 500. Another thing that you become dependent on is inflation, as the government continues to print money. They are printing money at such an unprecedented pace, it is blowing my mind. You now become dependent on inflation. And when all of the things don't work out, right? When Social Security has gone bankrupt, when inflation has destroyed your purchasing power, when taxes and your deferred liability of taxes blow up in your face, when you can't retire, what's the outcome of that? I mean, just walk down that road and figure out what's the outcome of that. Well, you're going to be dependent. You're going to say, it's not my fault, I did everything you told me to do. And you're going to vote for politicians who say they're going to fix the system in whatever the way they're going to say they're going to fix the system, which ultimately means they're going to bail you out. That is not freedom, my friends. That is dependency on a system that is meant to keep you voting, meant to keep you stuck, meant to keep you paying taxes. So I want you to consider this. In every aspect of our life, you get to choose to be independent, to be rebellious against the status quo. Being rebellious against the status quo means, look, if the food pyramid, it tells us to eat, sugar and processed foods, probably do the opposite. I mean, don't follow what the masses are doing. Be healthy. Your health is in your control, or a large portion of it. You're going to have to take control over your mindset. What goes in between your ears? Are you binging on Netflix for 3 hours a night, or are you investing in a solid mindset that can help you see solutions to real problems today? Become independent in all aspects of your life, including money. And when it comes to money, the reason I say financial freedom is the ultimate rebellion. When you have the resources to say no, that is one of the most massive forms of independence, of rebellion that I could ever think of. I'll never forget when I walked away from my corporate job. My boss told me, I didn't walk into my job with the intention of quitting the day I quit. He told me I was going to have to go back out on the road, and I had built up enough cash flow, enough financial freedom to actually consider a different alternative. I'll never forget when I said I quit the day that he told me I was going back on the road. I had no intention of quitting that day, but I'd built up a doorway of options. I built up enough cash flow for me to say no to things I didn't want to do in order to say yes to the things I do want to do. So I want you to consider this, my friends. America, it was built on a spirit of work, on adventure, of freedom. But that dream requires you to do the work, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financially, to be truly independent. That's why this is the ultimate rebellion, because every time the system offers you a solution, it always comes with strings attached, whether that's taxes, money printing, more interest, more control, whatever it is. You need to be independent. And then with that independency, you can be the ripple of change. You can be the solution. You can be the light for those around you. Start using your independence to influence those in your neighborhood, those in your family. And all change has to come from a cultural revolution. It has to come from the ground up. Our problems will never be fixed legislated from the top down. They will only be fixed as we at the bottom, we at the foundation, say no and start being the solution to the American problem, and start demanding better from those we elect into leadership positions. So my friends, the final question is coming back to where I started from. If your paycheck stopped tomorrow, how long would you be free? My friends, it's time to do something about this. Over the next 10 years, I truly believe will be one of the greatest opportunities, and it'll be one of the greatest destructive times in probably modern history. I mean, AI is changing everything. So my friends, you get one shot at this thing called life. Why not go all in? Why not live big? Why not live financially free? Be that type of person. Become rebellious to the status quo and choose to live an above average, an abundant life, an extraordinary life. That's what this episode was really all about. So my friends, thank you for listening. If you have not yet subscribed to the Retire in 10 Years Summit, please go ahead and do that now. I mean, mean, listen to what Ed Milet, to what Ben Kerr, to what Anthony Trucks, to what Patrick Donahoe, to what, so many amazing people are going to be saying about if they had 10 years to work, earn, save, and invest, how would they do it? And follow that model. Follow that model, my friend. So again, thanks for listening. Join me on the next episode. And until then, rise up and live free. All right, my friends, that's a wrap for today. If you're serious, though, about turning everything we talked about into your new reality, there's only one place you need to be. It's the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit. This is your chance to learn exactly how to unlock financial freedom and build passive income in 2025. Early registration is live right now with an exclusive bonus for our early action takers. Don't miss out. Head to the link in the show notes or just head on over to retireintenyears.com and I'll catch you at the summit.